In a world that is just constantly screaming for our attention, how do we actually stay focused on what matters? Today, we're going to break down a really powerful guide called Eyes on the Road, Heart in the Light, to find some clear, practical ways to navigate all that noise. You ever have one of those days? I mean, you're pulled in a dozen different directions, you're always busy, but at the end of it all, you feel like you haven't really moved forward. You're just drifting. Well, that feeling is right at the heart of what we're exploring, and the source we're using has the perfect analogy for it. So picture this. You're on a long drive, right? You look down for just a second. Maybe a text pings or you're changing the radio, and when you look back up, your car is drifting. You know that little jolt of panic you feel in your stomach? That's the feeling of unintentional movement. You didn't choose to swerve, you just took your eyes off the road for a split second. And that's exactly the feeling we're digging into. This brings us to what our source calls the central danger of our time. It's called the drift. This idea that tiny, seemingly harmless moments of just not paying attention can steer us somewhere we never, ever planned on going. So what is the drift, really? Well, it's that unintentional slide away from our goals, our values, our faith. And here's the crucial insight. The drift is almost never one big, conscious choice. Nobody wakes up and says, you know what, today I'm going to totally lose focus. Instead, it's a slow, subtle thing, a result of 1,000 tiny distractions, day in and day out. And you know, this is not a new problem at all. This piece of ancient wisdom from Luke's gospel warns of our hearts being weighed down by life's anxieties. I just love that phrasing. It's not a sudden crash, right? It's a gradual pressure that just builds and builds until a critical moment hits and snap, the trap closes. Okay, so if the danger is this slow drift, what's causing it right now today? Well, our source points to this kind of sleight of hand that's happening all around us in our modern world. And it's creating all these traps for our focus. And this analogy is just perfect. Think about it. A magician's whole trick depends on misdirection. They show you something big and flashy with one hand, so you completely miss the quiet, really important move the other hand is making. Our modern world, with all its pings and notifications and trending topics, has basically become the ultimate magician. And here they are, the two hands in action. On one side, you've got the constant glare of the blue light. You know, our screens, just serving up endless trends, entertainment, and outrage that's all designed to keep us scrolling. And on the other side, you have the light, the deeper, quieter stuff like reflection, wisdom, prayer. But here's the real kicker. You can't really focus on both at the same time. Okay, so the world is full of these magicians trying to make us drift off course. That can feel pretty overwhelming, right? But our guide doesn't just point out the problem, it actually offers a solution, a kind of navigation system for when things feel dark. The tool it gives us is prophecy, but maybe not in the way you've always thought about it. I want you to imagine you're in a pitch-black forest. A flashlight doesn't make the forest disappear, and it doesn't make the sun come up any faster. What it does do is light up the ground right in front of you, so you can see where to take your very next step without tripping. It's a practical tool for right here, right now. And this whole idea is anchored right here, in this verse from 2 Peter. It describes this prophetic message as a reliable light in a dark place. See, the goal isn't to predict the future just to scare us, it's to steady us. It's a tool for peace, reminding us that even when the world feels totally chaotic, there's a clear path right in front of our feet. So we've got this flashlight, but a tool is pretty useless if we don't actually know how to use it, right? And that brings us to the most actionable part of this whole guide, what it calls the watchman's strategy for staying alert. Our source gives us this fantastic illustration of a security guard working the night shift. His job has two absolutely critical parts. He has to watch the security monitors, but he also has to be able to radio headquarters. Now, if he sees a threat, but his radio's broken, he's totally helpless. And if his radio works perfectly, but he's fallen asleep in front of the screens, well, he's useless. You need both. So here's that two-step strategy. Step 1 is to watch. That means paying attention to what's happening around us, but, and this is so important, interpreting it through a lens of wisdom, not just getting sucked into media-fueled fear. And step 2 is to pray. The source calls this the hand on the steering wheel. It's the act of correction, the direct communication that keeps the winds of culture from just blowing you off course. And this whole strategy is summed up perfectly in this final instruction from Luke. Be always on the watch and pray. Did you notice? It doesn't say or, it says and. This is a continuous, connected practice. Because just like with the watchman, one without the other leaves you either helpless or useless. But when you put them together, that's how you stand firm. Okay, so let's bring all this home. We've seen the danger of the drift, and we've got the two-part solution of watching and praying. Now it's time to talk about the single most important action you can take, putting your hands back on the wheel. And this is really the powerful summary from our source. The biggest threat isn't the growing darkness out there in the world, it's the tempting distraction right here, in our own hands and hearts. The challenge then is to consciously make a choice, to put down the phone of worldly distraction, and to put our hands firmly back on the steering wheel of focused prayer. So it all comes down to this one simple but really powerful question. A question that just cuts through all the noise and gets right to the point. When you're being totally honest with yourself, which light are you looking at most?